Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Spurs. I'll never ever tire. I don't care how it happens. I'll never tire of seeing us beat Liverpool ever in my life. Like I say, I couldn't care less. It's almost funnier. It's almost just after that Champions League final, the handball and everything. It's almost funnier when we beat them with a sort of controversial goal, something that we know they're going to be complaining about for days, weeks, months, probably after it's happened. But I'll never tire. I'll never tire of beating Liverpool ever. Seeing Tottenham beat Liverpool is just unbelievable. What a performance! Oh bloody hell! Go on. It's a cat. What a performance! Just unbelievable. I'm actually quite speechless for once. In a good way. We were just from the very start. I mean, look. Do you reckon I should? Should I do that? I think I probably should say up top. Wishing Rodrigo Bentancur all the best. Like I think we've probably all seen the replays of his fall. There's a lot of speculation about his state before the fall, and I mean, probably best we wait to get the facts on that one before we start sort of spreading more. But the fact he wasn't rushed to hospital, which is, I guess, on one hand a positive sign, but the fact that he's going for like further tests and stuff is a little bit concerning. So obviously just wishing him a speedy recovery and hope that it's nothing serious. I'm not going to sit here and speculate as to what it might be or anything. It looked very unpleasant, and it's horrible. You know, I'm not going to, I mean, I sort of am doing it. I don't mean to like center myself in this, but I'm just saying I was there when like Fabrice Muamba went down at White Hart Lane. And it's horrible. It's horrible being there when there's that kind of, I don't know, that stillness in the air when people don't really know quite what's going on and what's happening. And there was that, wasn't there, for quite a while with Bentancur this evening. Good that he's responsive, and let's just hope it's something minor, you know. Fingers crossed on that one. But back to Tottenham Hotspur, semi-final of the Carabao Cup. I always default back to saying Carling. You dar in it. But always lovely to see Tottenham beat Liverpool. I know I keep saying that, but it just is. It's just a wonderful, wonderful feeling. I didn't hold a lot of hope even for this leg, like for the whole thing in general, and maybe we'll get walloped to Anfield. But right now, we're going to Anfield with some hope. We're going to Anfield in a semi-final, in the lead, with some hope, you know, and that's a big thing. Like, it's a big thing. Imagine if they'd have left tonight having done us 3-0 or whatever, you know, and we've got another match at Anfield for them to furtherly kind of rub it in. Going up there with the lead is at least something. And if we put in the type of performance that we put in tonight, it's going to be, you know, it's exciting times. It's exciting time. Hopefully. And I know like Newcastle are making it their personality to batter Spurs now all the time and to just routinely beat us. But let's be real. I think we would all rather have Newcastle if we get to the final. I'm not getting too big for my boots. I'm just saying I probably am getting a bit too big for my boots still. But you got a dream, haven't you? You got a dream to dare us to do and all that nonsense, right? We want to be in the final. We want to be like, what's the word? Manifesting that, bringing that to life, right? And I'm sure we would all rather have Newcastle in the final than Arsenal. Obviously, just a little matter of an away leg at Anfield. You'll never walk alone, booming out, all that type of thing, right? Obviously, probably the officials very conscious of the fact that the winning goal scorer this evening, let's be real, should have had a red card. I don't think his first yellow was a yellow. So it's sort of evened out in that respect. But in the respect that he was on a yellow, it was a second yellow card. It was. He should have been off. I'm not going to come. I'm not going to argue with that. I would debate the first yellow card though. So that's kind of where there's a bit of mitigation there. I think just a tad. It's not. It's by no means. It's by no means as much a kind of controversy or an injustice really as as when we beat them, last season, when basically VAR weren't paying attention and they, what was it? I can't even remember what happened. I think one of them was offside or they called it offside and they had to release the tapes and it was them all in real time, like, I would have been. I mean, as much as we sort of say, "Oh, Liverpool love to kick off about this stuff," you would have been absolutely fuming. Like my head, imagine my head would be spinning. Like you turn on a stream or a pod or whatever, my head would be fully spinning around. If what happened to Liverpool happened to us last season. This is not this Bergvall one. Look, we've done them. What a performance! I mean, where do I even start with this? I know I sort of do all the players individually and stuff a bit later on, but I don't think I can get through much more of this pod without talking about Kinsky. Oh my days! Like I was sort of like, so prior to this game, I don't know if you saw, but BBC Sport put up an article by basically by a Czech football writer who I sort of took it as like he basically said Kinsky, like he's from a line of goalkeepers. His father was a goalkeeper. His father keeps a very watchful eye over him, over his career, makes sure he stays on the straight and narrow. The whole sort of picture that they were painting of him was basically one of these like serious footballers, as in like doesn't go out, chatting up women and getting on the piss and all that type of thing. He's focused. He's at training. He's like military with his football, if you like. But when it comes to how good a player he is or not, they're like, well, he's quite good, And they pretty much say like, the question was put to the journal, or the journal is basically answering the lingering question: is he the next Petr Cech? And he was like, well, probably not. And that kind of made me think like, is that sort of side eye in a strange sort of way? But then I guess I sort of reconciled it by thinking Petr Cech is probably, I'm guessing, something of a national hero. He's one of their greatest ever players. So I think to just sort of call a promising goalkeeper to say, it's the same thing that's going to happen to every young Argentinian. Is he the next Messi? Every young Portuguese, is he the next Ronaldo? It's that sort of thing. So I can imagine if the question is he the next Petr Cech, it's probably calm down a bit, calm down. I think we all know, like, whatever, Chelsea, he was an incredible goalkeeper, one of the best the Premier League's ever seen. So maybe I sort of took it a bit. I say I took it too much to heart. I haven't written the fella off or anything. I was just sort of slightly concerned that maybe he's not that good. I mean, those concerns basically, cut to the chase, Jack. Those concerns were allayed minutes into this game. I mean, his overall presence in the box is impressive. Like he's massive. You can tell. Like he's a unit. The fella. He's a big lad. But his distribution is kicking. He's kicking with the ball at his feet. He is sensational. He immediately added just a completely new element to our game, a whole new dimension to what it is that we're doing. Just unbelievable. Some not just the kind of like, 'cause he was very good at doing those quick, precise, arrowed kind of long balls, long passes up into the path of Son or Solanke. He did that several times, like the old Alderweireld kind of crossfield balls. You know what I mean? You could like whip it like that, get some real ping on it. But what he was also good at doing was just stroking the ball, getting those nice little kind of like weighted little lob type chip, but with a bit of like direction, bit of purpose to them passes. So he could sort of immediately bypass that Liverpool press at the front and get it out to usually to the wings or to Basuma in midfield. And it was just delicious. I mean, obviously, a few times he did have to play sort of back and forward with Radu Dragusin a bit, and what ultimately ended up going wrong there was Radu Dragusin on the ball, which I don't really want to dig anyone out tonight because I actually think Dragusin was defensively very, very good tonight. Really, really impressive performance. Not as impressive as Archie Gray though, who, Jesus, by every single game looks like we underpaid with 40 mil, if anything. Like, what an unbelievable, considering this isn't even his like preferred position. What an unbelievable player he's starting to look like. But back to Kinsky, I mean, just that distribution and just, I guess, the confidence and the sort of self-assurance, same thing, Jack, to play in that fashion, not only in your debut, but like a debut in with all due respect, a considerable step up in terms of stature, of performance, or of fixture against Liverpool, and in a semi-final as well. It's quite unbelievable. And you'd spoken about in his pre-match presser the fact that he was the type of personality that we're looking for. He said that he's somebody that we'd earmarked for summer, but we had to get it done early because, quite evidently because of the injury issues we're having, all that type of thing. But he looks really good. He looks really good. I mean, his saves, he pulled off a couple of one-on-one saves. There wasn't much more. They're like, to be honest, we contained Liverpool really quite like shockingly well today. And I think Kinsky just, maybe it's having a keeper like that gave the defense, added reassurance. Could well be. But he looked unbelievable. And I felt, going into this game, I'll be honest, I still do to a degree, but now my selfish side kicked in. I felt bad for Brandon Austin. I felt bad for him because I actually thought Brandon Austin was good against Newcastle. I did. I thought he put in a good performance. And I still stand by the fact that Brandon Austin probably should have been getting more minutes. And it's quite brutal to that. It's quite brutal to be waiting on the sidelines and then we go and just sign another keeper straight away who looks brilliant. But I don't even think it's just Brandon Austin that's got to worry about this lad. I think Vicario, honestly, will and should be watching performances like tonight and thinking, oh dear, I've got to up my game. And I like Vicario. I really like Vicario. As I've said plenty of times on this pod, I've not bought into the overly kind of critical narrative that follows Vicario around. I think he's been a really, really good asset. I mean, to fill Hugo Lloris's shoes, to even step into those shoes, has taken some doing. Considering that he hasn't, Vicario himself has kind of been a late bloomer. He's not played an awful lot of like even Serie A football. He's not played a lot of top flight football. I think he'd only played a season or two of Serie A football before Spurs had signed him. He's a lot older than people think he is. I think he's 27, 28. I'll hold my hands up. I thought when we first signed him, he was 23, 24 as well. But few years down the line on that. Late bloomer. And I think he's a good goalkeeper. But I guess Kinsky's age and just that... This is one of those things, isn't it? And it does fall into kind of your eye test sort of territory. But sometimes you just get that sense from a player, don't you? Like, you can see there's a certain look in his eyes. There's a certain look there where they're just like, yeah, I belong here. Like, I'm not scared. I'm not overwhelmed at all by this. Like, I know I'm good enough to be here. Always sort of used to say that at Delhi back in the day. And you kind of get that vibe from this lad, don't you? Where he's just, can you imagine? Like, can you imagine, genuinely imagine the sort of pressure? I mean, I can't, for most professions, right? Most professions which are office based, this is basically like, oh, guess what? I've got a new job. And on like my first day in the new job, they actually want me to go and do like a TED talk for them and like talk about the company and like, yeah, present this huge thing in front of thousands of people. So yeah, that'll be good. I mean, I'd absolutely. You might think because I can sit here and do this in my room, I'd be good at that. I'd absolutely wilt at that. I mean, that's you're probably all thinking, no, no, mate, we listen to you talking on here. Like, we know you'd be shy. We know you'd be shy at doing that, Jack. Like, don't worry. Nobody's under any misconceptions about you and your ability to do like adult things under pressure. As you lose your ass after football matches on your podcast where you talk to yourself. But to do that, to just step into a fixture like tonight is unbelievable. It's remarkable, like remarkable on a human level. That's remarkable. And the performance on top of that. I mean, I won't have much to say about him in the second half. Really, I've just done that, but I think that particularly deserved you know, an additional kind of level of talking about. Right? I mean, look, that's just. Beating Liverpool, folks. I mean, again, you know, sort of after I said after the Man United game, you know, when we beat them at Old Trafford 4-0. These are just the sort of fixtures where I know we've got a second leg. I know people are going to say, well, it's only the League Cup and they banged us in the Premier League 6-3 and whatever. Just shut the noise out. Like, just shut the noise out and just bask in this for a bit. Like Liverpool are the best team in Europe right now. Liverpool are the best team in Europe. And yeah, they probably, I mean, that Manchester United game was probably pretty draining for them a few days ago. It was a really high intensity game. It was really like, you know, it was fiercely contested. But is that our problem? That's not our problem. What we have done is, if they are tired or whatever, we've capitalized upon that. And we've massively, I'm not going to say we've outplayed them because I think that's overselling it in a certain way. Um, because I do think in that second half they kind of they controlled it, but they controlled it in the way that I often complain about Spurs. So I'll turn the sort of I'll turn the cannon the other way this time, right? Not about us. And I would say a lot of their possession was what I have been calling quite impotent possession. Like, they didn't really do an awful lot. Okay, they had a couple of decent chances. That Trent chance that Dragusin cleared off the line, and as soon as Trent came on, they looked a lot better. But they didn't look like Liverpool, if you know what I mean. We kept Salah very quiet. It was a really good performance from us, a really good composed performance. And it could I was kind of worried because that first 5 minutes, we were all over them. We were all over them. And you could tell there was a goal coming. There was a goal. I mean, we were either going to score or they were going to go up the other end and get one on the break or something, maybe. But if we're going to be positive about it, a goal was on its way for Spurs. We were all over them. And then obviously Bentancur's injury or issue took place. And there's that bit, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us were probably thinking, well, that was fun while it lasted, wasn't it? And now it's going to be a real struggle. But they really rallied there. They really, really rallied. They really, really hustled. And as much as, you know, I have been digging out Ange Postecoglou the past few weeks, one thing I have always maintained, and I definitely maintained a lot after Newcastle, is that he clearly hasn't lost the players yet. And games like tonight really helped to emphasize that. It was a majestic performance. It really, really was a brilliant, brilliant performance. One of the best I've seen from us. Honestly, that is genuinely, that's one of the best Tottenham performances I've seen in a dare I say, that's the best Tottenham performance all season. And I know people will talk about Old Trafford, and I know people talk about the Etihad. and they were both bombastic. They were both bombastic performances in terms of the scoreline, right? But in terms of like, and I don't know, I just feel as an overall mature, what you would call a proper performance. I think that was Tottenham's best this season. I do. Because the Etihad and Old Trafford, they still sort of carried not that I'm hard to please or anything, but no, but if you just follow my drift, like they kind of carried an air of like an element of like farce about them in a way. They just sort of seem so fantastic or so sort of bizarre that, and we've seen sort of the form of both of those clubs since those results. Maybe like hot take, our win over Manchester City in the League Cup was probably better than our 4-0 win at the Etihad in certain ways. And I know that sounds like you're trying to do the little meme of the cartoon hipster guy holding the beer saying the thing. I'm not saying it in that way. I'm just saying that like that again felt like a mature performance. That felt like a performance that came from us. That's the way I'll put it. Like tonight, it felt like a performance that came from us. It felt like we took the initiative, we controlled the game, we largely dictated the way the game was going, the tempo of the match, right? Games like sort of like the Etihad and Old Trafford away, those I don't even know why I'm continuing to go on about this, but I really feel the need to sort of qualify this point. That just felt like the other team having an arse flap in a way. And I don't think Liverpool did that tonight. I think Liverpool actually came up quite short. Liverpool were getting really quite frustrated. And I know that was exacerbated by the Bergvall thing, and they'll probably hide behind that a little bit. But I think, like, in the back of their minds, they would be able to honestly say Spurs were probably good value for the win tonight. I think we were. I think we were good value for the win. And it wasn't a weakened Liverpool side, you know? That was a good Liverpool side. A very good. Best side in Europe. They are the best side in Europe. I hope they go on and win the Premier League. I do. Because I feel like they'll be the only team to stop Arsenal, obviously. Mixes it up a bit from Manchester City, winning it all the time. And I've got to say, like, and I know people hate this sort of thing. I know football's supposed to be this, like, it's almost like a half and half scarf sort of saying this, but Arne Slot's an annoyingly likable fella. Like, he comes across really well. He seems like he just seems like a decent, solid guy. And Liverpool have played really good football this season. I wouldn't mind seeing them win the league. If it's not going to be Spurs, which it isn't going to be, I don't mind that. But tonight, like, we largely outplayed them, or at least we contained them quite well. And struck when we had our moment. I mean, Solanke's goal was just a whisker offside, isn't it? And I get it. It's an offside. It's technically offside. It's that I don't want to fall into that whole Arsenal. He's whatever he's 23 till he's 24. It's kind of he's offside until he's not, isn't it? But it's one of those where you're like, is that really an offside? Is that is that clear, and is that a clear advantage? But it has to begin somewhere, and he was offside. It was frustrating because it was one of those goals I celebrated, and Charlotte said straight away, he's offside. He's offside. What are you doing, you Wally? He's offside. I sat there, we'll just cross the VAR decision coming in. But we managed to get one. Bergvall should have been off the pitch, but he wasn't, so who cares? I don't care. We've seen this happen enough times. In a Champions League final, you got an armpit penalty. Like, we've got so much credit in the bank against you. You might have beaten us in that Champions League final, even without that. But history will show that you got an armpit penalty within 25 seconds and killed the game off there and then. Like, we've got so much karma against you lot. So much karma. Because that's not the only one. There's so many examples of this. What was the one, the recent Alderweireld, that weird little kind of own goal type thing that we scored at Anfield, I think in that same season, 2019 as well. A few other little examples of that. Just like bore off. Steven Bergwijn missing like a couple of absolute sitters at Anfield and at White Hart Lane. Like, we got so much karma against Liverpool. I don't care. Like, we'll take it. We'll take it anytime. Just what a delight. What a delight to beat them. What a delight to just maybe be looking at a cup final, which ain't going to be like if it comes down to if it comes down to Newcastle, if we get to the cup final and it's Newcastle, it's not by. Do you know what I mean? By any stretch of the imagination, that's a tough game. Eddie Howe's got them playing really good football. They look really good again this season. They're very cute. Um, they can play good football when they want to, but they can also murder games when they want to and snatch goals. And like I think they're a very good side, and I think Eddie Howe's done a great job there. I know he's not going to shag me. Don't worry. But with all that said, Tottenham against Newcastle is an even game. It's an even game. And as much as I fancy our chances against anyone to a degree in a cup final, and I know their form hasn't really shown this the past few weeks, Arsenal are a very good team. I'm sorry, Arsenal are a very good side. I'd much rather be facing Newcastle in a cup final than Arsenal. We'll just put it that way. And it's winnable. I'm not saying we would definitely win it, but it's winnable. Newcastle in the cup final is winnable. Like, for all you want to say about Tottenham bottling it, they ain't won a cup for about 55 years. And this is the thing. This is one of those frustrating things because all the narrative going into this will probably be if it is. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's talk. We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this after the Anfield game. I'm not doing. It's a bit too far. I'm not going to start sort of talking about what people are going to say about Tottenham going into a final. That's just silly talk. Silly talk right now. We've got a 1-goal lead going into Anfield, which, knowing Liverpool, they can literally cancel out in the opening minute. Like, would you be surprised? 55 seconds in, Mo Salah scores a goal and it's 1-1. Game on. Like, it's what that team are like, and it's what they're like at Anfield. So big game ahead, but at least we have hope going into that now. We have hope that Spurs might be on their way to Wembley. Tottenham's going to do it again. Yes, I am your cringe uncle or cousin or younger brother or whatever. There's a broad demographic that listen to this podcast for some reason. Let's do the players. Kinsky, I've spoken about him literally for 10 minutes. Wonderful performance. Unbelievable. Wow. Jed Spence. I'll read. I'm going to reference myself. I'll read out the tweet that I did halfway through the game, which is: we need a thorough inquiry to get to the bottom of who has been responsible for Jed Spence's omission from the team these past few years, followed by public executions for the culprits. The lad is superb. And some people have said, wow, you'll be executing Jed Spence then, which maybe is partly true, but I don't know. It's supposed to be amusing, right? It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be a little quip on the fact that we've had this very, very talented, clearly very talented player rotting on our bench or playing in the Serie B for the past, 2 and a bit years. What a player. Like, what a player. Composed, reads the game very well, in my opinion. Defensively, very good. His positioning is good. He's quick. He's strong. He plays those lovely kind of like outside of the boot, over the top through balls, as you would sort of say in FIFA or Pro Evo back in the day. They didn't all come off, but the intent was there and it was nice execution. He's very good at staying on his feet, at like nicking the ball off of attacking players. He hounds attacking players. He's great at pressing. And I think he has a level of press resistance to him as well. I think he's very good with the ball at his feet. Very quick feet, very tidy footballer. Hard to get the ball off of. A wonderful player, like a wonderful player. I don't want to see him leave the team. I'd rather be playing him than Udogi or Porro. Take your pick, either one. Um, but I want to see him stay in the team. He's brilliant. He's absolutely mustard. An absolutely wonderful, wonderful player. I don't know why it's taken this long to see him get some time, but he's gotten that time, and you know he's grabbing it with both hands. Like what a player! What a player he is. Pedro Porro, a good performance. Sort of, I mean, we were sort of missing those whipped crosses that he was, really. He was just doing really well with against Newcastle. I can't really quite think of the words to say, but he was really good against Newcastle in the sort of the attacking third, crossing balls into the box. Wasn't so much of that today, and as like as a mate said to me on WhatsApp, Gakpo kind of had the makings of it. Gakpo, who sort of when Liverpool signed him, everyone was a bit like, seems like quite a lot of money for a all right-ish looking player. He's looked unbelievable, hasn't he, this season? So, maybe it's not so much a fault of Pedro Porro, it's more that Gakpo's very, very good. But I think Pedro Porro's positioning and just his sort of, I'd say maybe just his how alert he is to unfolding danger, to a counter-attack, is still not quite as good as you'd like it to be for one of our more senior players, really. But a good performance overall. Like I don't really want to dig out anyone in a back line that's kept a clean sheet against Liverpool. Like, that's massive, man. Like, it's massive. It is massive. Keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool is huge. And we shouldn't underrate that. Radu Dragusin, like I say, I mean, again, sort of similar sort of issues with his ability to play with the football, if you like. But defensively sound. I thought he was like pretty good in the air, putting some good tackles. Was just I think he just kind of marked up well and was just efficient. He was efficient. Archie Gray, man, just like I say, an unbelievable player, man. And like much like I was saying of Kinsky, just a young player that has that kind of level of confidence and assurance. And the funny thing is, as I've said before, the thing about Archie Gray is like he looks properly young. Like when you see his face, he looks like he looks like a boy, but he doesn't play like that. And maybe opposition players kind of I don't know, underestimate him as a result of that. But he's so composed. He's so composed. I mean, his tackling's great. His fitness is great. He can put himself about. Like he's got quite a frame on him. He's quite kind of stocky, He's mouthy. The way he sort of spreads the play about, the way he passes the ball about is lovely. Like, just hold on to this kid, man. Hold on to this kid. Like he can be a club captain. Like he can be our club captain one day. He's he honestly he looks like he's just, I don't know, he's just got that feeling of like, and I'm genuinely not trying to be like overly pessimistic when I say that. I'm just saying he's got that feeling of that player that Manchester City buy. But we've gotten there first. We've gotten there first, and hopefully we can hold on to him because we've spent 40 million pounds on him when he's 18 years old. For anybody to get him off of us is going to cost him a lot of money, right? It's going to cost him a hell of a lot of money. So he should be ours for quite some time. What a player. Lucas Bergvall. I was sort of saying last week. Well, last week. It all blurs into one. There's so many podcasts at the moment. After the Newcastle game, I had those sort of concerns that, like, I know people were saying how good he was. I was sort of a little bit worried that, he's a bit young for that level. I wouldn't mind seeing him have a Premier League loan. I'm not. I'm not going to be as like knee jerk to completely reverse that, but he was very good tonight. I still think he faded a little bit after Bentancur went off, and he was asked to sort of play in a more sort of deeper lying role. And I get that that's maybe part of it. Like it's probably not fair on him to have to sort of do that. He needs that Bentancur player alongside him to really show what he's doing. But he did sort of disappear a little bit, but he scored the winning goal. So I don't care. I don't care. He's bright again. He looks kind of brave. He's stepping up, he's stepping up, and long may it continue. Let's hope he keeps getting some minutes. If there's one good thing that can come from this sort of period of injuries and everything like that, that as much as we are in the moment bemoaning it, it's seeing our league form be drastically terrible. If there's one positive that can come from this, it's the minutes that these young players are getting where they otherwise might not have, or at least gotten as many minutes. In the long run, this it could be golden. So, you know, Rodrigo Bentancur obviously went off in minutes, and let's hope he's speedy recovery for the lad. Yves Bissouma, you know what? Yves Bissouma, Yves Bissouma has got to be one of the most irritating footballers to ever pull on the Tottenham shirt. And I say this because when Yves Bissouma's at it, he is a remarkable player. I thought tonight Yves Bissouma was fantastic. I thought he was everything we thought we were buying. Sublime. He was everywhere. He was breaking up Liverpool's attacks. He was starting our attacks. He was dictating the kind of tempo in that midfield. He was providing that bridge from defense to attack, helping us to build an attack. Like, he was fantastic, brilliant on the ball. Generally always choosing like good options. It was fantastic. The reason why I qualify why I say he's so frustrating is because he's just so inconsistent. Like, you see the ability, and I still always end on the side of the fence. A lot of people always say we need to move on from Bissouma. I'm still I still keep him. Like, I still keep him because I think he's a truly brilliant footballer. I think he's really, really special. And if we can just keep the Yves Bissouma that we saw tonight more and more consistently, we're onto a good thing, man. Like, we're onto a good because like he can just be so good. I was watching him tonight thinking, fuck, man, this is like it's almost like, I don't know. It's almost like when he's that good, you're just like, we don't need to spend that 100 million on that number six. I know saying that, I know people are going to be saying you're deluded and you're this and that, but he's just like, he's so good. He can be so good. I really hope he can just stay in that kind of flow state. And yeah, I know he got booked, and I know it looked like he could probably get sent off again, but whatever. Like, his performance was great. It was fearless. It was controlled. He was brilliant. Yeah, I really think he was brilliant. I really like him. I still feel. I know he's like he's sort. I don't think he's quite a Marmite player, but he's verging on being quite a Marmite player. I think Yves Bissouma. I still think that. I still think the overall sentiment, I would say, from Spurs fans is positive towards Yves Bissouma, but yeah, let's just keep him about, right. Dejan Kulusevski obviously fell back into midfield, and was good. He didn't stop working as he does. I'm not going to lie, it wasn't one of his most like standout performances tonight, but that's a tough game. Liverpool's a tough game, and where we often see Kulusevski shining is perhaps in games doing what he does best, where he can go on those sort of marauding runs, where he can really kind of hold on to possession in the midfield, or just move the ball, progress the ball up the pitch. I think when you're playing against a team like Liverpool, perhaps it's not as straightforward. Doing all the things that he wants to do, but he still, it was by no means a bad performance from Kulusevski. It just felt like, it was things weren't really coming off for him tonight. That's what I kind of felt like. It was almost like he can, just sometimes it's like that sort of punching in a dream feeling. Sometimes watching some players when they just can't quite get the ball out of their feet properly. It was just a few little like moments of that with Kulusevski this evening, but for the most part, he's still that warrior in that midfield. He gives us that presence, that physical presence. If anything, like not just that, I'm not just reducing his like purpose in this team to being like to physicality. It's not, but I'm saying at the very least, that's what you're getting from him. So again, he's contributed to a clean sheet against Liverpool, not just a clean sheet, a win against Liverpool with a clean sheet. Playing in the sort of centre of midfield, so we can't sort of undervalue that. Son Heung-min, I thought played well this evening. I do think he played well, and I agree with a lot of what Andrew's saying pre-match about Sonny, in that the system isn't quite there yet. It's not quite clicking. If you dropped Salah into this team instead of Son, basically, if you swap their places, if you put Son into Liverpool's team and Salah into our team, the outcomes of their sort of respective seasons would probably also flipped. As much as I dig out the underlying data, and I was sort of speaking about this on the Patreon pod before, but Sonny and Salah's stats largely mirror one another this season, other than the goals and assists. But all the work they're doing behind the scenes is pretty much the same. Sonny's a hard worker, man. He looked gutted to be coming off the pitch tonight. But managing his minutes, I've sort of been calling for that. So whatever, like that's fine. Happy he signed his new contract. I don't get how anyone can be disappointed with that. Like, I don't, just whatever. People are free to, have the opinions that they want to have. Brennan Johnson, yeah, I think he was good in patches. He gave us a bit of he was actually all right, kind of tracking back and making a few tackles a few times, I noted. I would like to see him be more aggressive in his play. And again, I think maybe that's, maybe we're asking him to do things that aren't really kind of what he does as a player, but it was an all right performance from him. I'll sort of leave it at that. Dominic Solanke, I thought again, like a really, really good performance from him. He didn't stop. He scored a goal, but it wasn't obviously given. He the way he presses and the way he sort of just tirelessly works for the team constantly in that final third is just so invaluable, I feel, to everything that we do. He's always keeping the opposition occupied. And it just allows just so many of our players to play around him and to play in the kind of the space that he keeps leaving for them as he continues to kind of push up the field, push into those sort of opposition spaces in the defense, keeping them occupied, keeping them distracted. It allows us to continue to sort of knock the ball about in those spaces that he leaves vacant. He's a lovely, lovely player. Like, as I've sort of said so many times, but like he's the best big money signing we've made. And I know the competition isn't very fierce on that front, but there's somebody who I was up for it. I was up for the signing of Solanke. Like, I was like, I'm up for this. But I was also like, is it that? Does it really strike fear into the hearts of the opposition fans or teams or whatever? It feels like a bit of a mid signing, as people would say. But I think he's proving most people wrong. Nice to see him score a few more goals. He did score a goal tonight, so Yeah, in terms of, I know it was offside, but by a whisker, and the finish was strong. It was composed. He still had work to do. That's kind of the point I'm making. Good performance from him, as it usually always is, right? Timo Werner came on pretty late and was okay. Actually, was okay. Was bright. Again, Timo Werner against kind of tired legs is the best sort of Timo Werner. Although there was one move right at the very very end, right in the sort of the stoppage time at full time, when instead of like he had sort of pitch to burn in front of him. It had opened up, and instead he just sort of like overhit a pass forward to Kulusevski, which really irritated me. Because I thought, if you're good for one thing, Timo, it's that you can run really quick with the ball at your feet, and you can run at people quite fearlessly. You can run at tired defenders, and you've just kind of pretty lazily, and I get it. I know. Look at me, sat here doing a podcast, calling a professional athlete lazy. I get it, right? I know. I understand the irony here, but in that kind of context, right? Timo had to just kind of lackadaisically kind of just knock the ball forwards. Did irritate me a bit. But you know, Timo Werner's Timo Werner. It is what it is from him. And I didn't think he was objectionable tonight. I thought he was, for the most part, good. And Spurs were brilliant. Brilliant. Wonderful performance. Brilliant performance. Hats off to Tottenham Hotspur. Hats off to Ange Postecoglou. You've absolutely bossed that one tonight, lad. You've absolutely bossed that one tonight. Much more of that, please. And I will happily eat every single bad word I've said about you, fella. Other, and I'll never let it go. I'll never let it go. When you dug us out about the Manchester City stuff, but we'll just put that in a little box for now. We'll put that to the side. But put egg all over my face. Do it. Like, that sounds really weird, doesn't it? That's like nothing weird with that. I just mean, like, make me eat my words. Let's go back to that. Eat my words. Humble pie, all of that type of thing, right? Just give me more of that, because that was a magnificent performance tonight. Again, I'll say I think that's Tottenham's best performance of the season, and gives us hope going into the second leg at Anfield, which is going to be massive. But the hunt for a cup continues, and it continues this weekend against Tamworth. So we'll look forward to that, won't we? I think that's that. So if you have enjoyed the podcast, please consider subscribing to Patreon, patreon.com/RTRpod. It's getting a bit more active on there at the moment. Going to start sort of putting a bit of video stuff on there. Pre-match pod, so like the post-match pod, I do a pre-match version of this where I basically preview the game, and other little bits in between. Just come and have a look. You can get a free trial for 7 days. Listen to or watch some of the content on there. See what you make of it. Yeah, if you can't do that, appreciate that. You can, what can you do? You can share the podcast, you can like, you can subscribe, you can write a review, you can leave a rating, you can do all of those things, please. That would be lovely. I am doing a live stream of this again, and I see quite a few of you watching, and there aren't as many thumbs up as there are eyeballs watching this. So if you can get a few more thumbs up on this, please, across the board, that would be lovely from all of you. And all of you listening, there's a lot more of you that listen to this than I see ratings and I see reviews across various different podcast playing platforms. So please, come rain or come shine, I'm usually here doing one of these after every games. Yes, I know I am a martyr, right? But just, if you could please just leave that rating, leave a review, help the podcast to grow. That would be much appreciated. But anyway, let's bask in that for a win tonight. Absolutely wonderful performance. Let's not have any back and forth. Let's not turn this into a culture war of, I said this was going to happen, you said that was going to happen, you said this. Let's all just, as a fan base, enjoy the fact We've beaten Liverpool in at least, yes, the first leg, but still we've beaten Liverpool in a cup semi-final. We've beaten Liverpool. Let's just enjoy that. Right? Much love, everybody. Good night. Come on, you Spurs.